Sharansky. Mr. Sharansky is an Israeli cabinet member, obviously a foreign Soviet dissident, and Mr. Sharansky, it is reported in the Associated Press this morning that Mr. Sharon was going to call Mr. Abbas today. Is that true?
Yes, today at the government meeting, Ariel Sharon said that he's going to meet rather soon with Abu Mazen and to try to start a new path in peace negotiations. But also, Ariel Sharon made it very clear today at the government meeting that there will be no concessions on the question of terror, that only full cooperation in the struggle against terror can satisfy us.
You had that cabinet meeting today?
Yes, it finished just 2 hours ago.
And besides what you just said, what was the general theme, feel, attitude towards this possibility of further movement in the Palestinian-Israeli issue?
Well, look, of course, it's very important that that there is now a new leadership. Everybody hopes that the new leadership, which doesn't think, at least technically, has responsibility for the past, it will be easier for them to take a new path. At the same time, it's clear that the immediate need of Israel is the end of the campaign of terror. It is the fact, it is just because we felt during all these years that we have no partner in struggles against terror. It is because for the 4 years of fighting against terror, we could see again and again that Palestinian authorities and Yasser Arafat personally were only quietly cooperating with the terrorists against us. That's what made the progress in the peace process absolutely impossible. So today there are hopes, but also we understand that these hopes will be implemented only if the new leadership will really be ready to embrace real and serious reforms, stop immediately the culture of hatred which every day in schools and in the media there is repeated again and again that Jews have to be killed, that Palestinians have to return back to Haifa and Tel Aviv, and I'm speaking about things which were said only yesterday, a day before yesterday, so on, in mass media, and in the state-controlled TV. And that's our hope, that now all this can be stopped, and that immediately will open the opportunity for new negotiations.
Where are you right now?
Where I am, personally?
Yes, where are you right now? What city are you in?
I'm in Jerusalem, of course.
And you have finished the cabinet meeting for today. How many members of the cabinet showed up?
Well, look, today it was a very special meeting because it is a new government after joining of Labour Party. So we had 20, for the first time we had 21 ministers, and because it is the first meeting of the broad government, so everybody showed up.
Now, you also have an opinion piece in this morning's Wall Street Journal, in which you start out by talking about what the United States' role should be as we go ahead with the possibility of some kind of peace agreement in the Middle East. Yes. What should the United States do?
Well, I am a big believer that the real peace will come to the Middle East only when we will stop being the only democracy in this part of the world. That the stability and peace, the way to stability and peace should be paved with the democratic reforms. And the most important thing is not how Abu Mazen speaks English or what he is saying to us. The most important thing is how Abu Mazen is going to treat his own people. And here the position of the free world is very important. And if there is serious reason for optimism, it is the fact that President Bush is expressing very firm belief that only democratic reforms can open the road to peace. So what should be these reforms, or what should be these expectations and demands towards Abu Mazen? First of all, dissent should be permitted in Palestinian Authority. People should stop living in fear that only for expressing their views they can be punished. Second, culture of hatred has to be stopped. Third, real economical opportunities have to be created for the middle class. Creation jobs means that people will be able to have joint ventures, that there will be real climate of free businesses and so on. And the fourth, and maybe it is the most necessary thing, the immediate conditions of Palestinians have to be improved. The fact that fourth generation of Palestinians lives in refugee camps is absolute disgrace. And the fact that Palestinian leadership wants to keep them in these awful conditions, that shows what are the real intentions. The Palestinian refugee camps have to be replaced with the decent housing. For this, of course, there must be a massive effort of the free world, launching a new Marshall Plan to help the Palestinians. But it must be clear to Palestinian leadership that if they embrace these reforms, the free world will be ready to help them and to be with them and to give them all the legitimacy and all the support. But if they will not be ready to do it, then they will get no legitimacy and no support.
Anatoly Sharansky is joining us by telephone from Jerusalem this morning. He's also the author of this fairly new book. It's called The Case for Democracy, The Power of Freedom to Overcome Tyranny and Terror. Mr. Sharansky, when we talked to you at the Miami Book Festival in November, you told us about the president reading your book.
Yeah, in fact, it was just when it was a pleasant surprise that just at the beginning of our book tour, when I, with my co-author Ron Derman, came to America to launch our book, in fact, on the third day, the publisher received a call from White House. It was said that the president is reading our book and he wants to meet. And then we had a meeting. And it's interesting, on that meeting, which happened one day after it was declared that Yasser Arafat is dead, we were discussing mainly the day after elections, what means today, the day after elections and Palestinian Authority. We were discussing how to apply this idea that all the people in the world deserve to live in freedom, that freedom, free society, that's something what strengthens security all over the world, and that free world can encourage this by supporting democratic reforms, how to apply it to the Middle East. And I was very glad since that meeting to see how on many meetings, on many press conferences, on many negotiations, President Bush again and again was demonstrating his firm belief that only promoting democracy and freedom we can bring more stability in this world. And that's exactly the test from today. That is a test for new leadership and for new opportunities in the Middle East.
Anatoly Sharansky, our guest, he's going to be able to take some phone calls from you from around the country. You'll see the phone numbers at the bottom of your screen. 202-737-0002 if you support Democrats, 202-628-0205 if you support President Bush, and 202-628-0184 if you support others. First call for him is from Los Angeles. Good morning, L.A.
Oh, good morning.
You're on the air with Mr. Sharansky.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Okay. Up front, basically, sir, I submit to you that the Israeli government is, in some pale shade, becoming more and more what they hate, what they profess to hate. In my opinion, the Israeli government is becoming more and more shades of Nazism. Okay? First of all, sir, the day the Israeli government recognizes that you folks, oh man, you folks got to get out of. You've got to get out of the West Bank. You've got to get out of the Gaza Strip. You cannot have any peace in the Middle East as long as there are Israeli settlements inside the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank. The day there is no Israeli settlement in the West Bank, no Israeli settlement in the Gaza Strip, is the day that quite possibly we might have a chance at some form of peace in the Middle East, is when the rest of the world, and certainly the Middle East, starts to perceive the United States as having an even-handed approach to the problem.
Mr. Sharansky.
Okay, a lot can be said about this, but I have to be brief. First of all, I want to remind to everybody that Israel is the only democratic country in this part of the world. And it's the only country, by the way, where the Arab members, Muslim and Arab members of the parliament, together with non-Muslim members of the parliament, can criticize, unlimitedly criticize day and night their own government. I'd like to see anything like this happening in any other country in this region. Second, it's true that there are that many of our neighbors want to destroy us, and they wanted to do it long before we came to the Western Bank. They tried to destroy Israel as a state from the very day it was declared, even before. And we would like to find those forces who want to gather with us to build peace in this part of the world. Unfortunately, until now, every concession, every square meter of the territory which we passed to Palestinian Authority, every dollar and every rifle were turned into part of the autonomy of terror. I'm speaking from Jerusalem, the city where in the last years there were 27 suicide bombings. I'm speaking from the country which for the fourth year is in the middle of the war against terror. And it all happened after we proposed to Yasser Arafat to give him practically all the territory of Judea, Samaria, and Western Bank and Gaza in order he will build his own state. But he said it's not enough. I want 4 million Palestinians to come to Tel Aviv, to Haifa. And by the way, until this day, every day on TV of Yasser Arafat, there are, today it's already not Yasser Arafat, it's Palestinian Authority. Again and again, it's declared that Palestinians want to come to Haifa, Tel Aviv, and so on. Yes, I want that Palestinians will have their state, but I want that it will be democratic state which is not dangerous for our existence and not part of terrorist state, which will be dangerous not only to us, but to all the world.
San Diego, go ahead.
Thank you, C-SPAN, and shalom.
Shalom.
Congratulations, Mr. Minister, for your wonderful book on democracy, which President Bush also relished so much.
Thank you very much.
Sir, you being a world-famous dissident, I know you believe in explanation and not in excuses.
Yeah.
So I have a brief four-sentence statement and a briefer question. Sentence number 1. When the State of Israel was created in 1948, Jerusalem, Gaza Strip, and West Bank were not part of the Promised Land. Sentence 2. After 1967 war, Israel did not withdraw from the occupied territories because the definite article, the, T-H-E, was missing in the United Nations Security Council Resolution 242. Sentence number 3. Israel, as a democracy as it is, built settlements in occupied territories while the World War II allies do not have even a single settlement in Germany, Italy, or Japan. Sentence number 4. Palestinian Muslims and Christians, like the late Professor Edward Said of Columbia University, could not return to Jerusalem, while a person born in Russia, you, sir, are the minister in charge of that holy city today.
Yeah.
So my question to you, sir, with all your respects, so that there can be peace in the world, is this. And that is the only one-word question. And the question is, why? W-H-Y, why?
Mr. Sharansky.
Okay, in 1967, Israel, which was not recognized, its right to exist was not recognized by any one of the 22 Arab nations, had to accept the war which was launched against it and defending itself occupied Western Bank and Gaza. But if you ask to what state these territories belonged, you will not be able to answer. Because before, it was territories which were occupied. Against the decision of the United Nations, they were occupied by Jordan and Egypt. And as to Palestinian states, these things didn't exist. In fact, even organizations which were fighting against Israel were not speaking about Palestinians. They were speaking about returning these territories to Egypt and Jordan. So, did Israel occupy these territories? Yes. Did it take from any other country to which it legitimately belonged? No. Now, we immediately said that our aim is not to keep these territories, but to guarantee our existence. And we are, yes, there are 22 Arab countries, and we are the only Jewish country in the world, the only shelter for the Jews in the world, the country which was the right for existence of which was recognized by United Nations but unfortunately not by Arab League and our neighbors. And the question since then was whether we will be able to have a peace with our neighbors or not. And unfortunately, we saw it again and again that any attempt to get recognition, but by one-sided concessions, were not bringing us peace, but was bringing more and more terror. The moment our partners and the new Palestinian leadership, the moment they will recognize that they have together with us to work for the peaceful solution, for peace in the Middle East, the moment they will be ready to reform their own society from the society of terror, unfortunately, which it is today, to the society of freedom, in which, first of all, Palestinians can enjoy this freedom, I am sure we can have a solution. We can have two states, Jewish state and Palestinian state, one near the other, and they will not be dangerous for the existence of one or the other.
Mr. Sharansky, our papers in the United States are talking about President Bush's invitation to Mr. Abbas to come to the White House. Do you think that that invitation should have been given so early in the game?
Well, I think definitely the new leadership has to be given a chance. And that's why the fact that President Bush is inviting Abu Mazen and is going to discuss with him the future in that part of the world, I think it gives such a good opportunity for Abu Mazen to speak about his intentions and his plans. But we have to understand that what is really important is what kind of reforms, what kind of the steps, what kind of reforms will be undertaken by new leadership, and to what extent they will be ready to become our partners in the struggle against terror. I am sure that President Bush will express readiness to support all the steps of new leadership in this direction.
When you said that from your cabinet meeting earlier today that Mr. Sharon was calling Mr. Abbas, has there been any agreement to meet?
No, there is no date yet. I don't think everything was already agreed finally, but that's I believe that's the question of some days. No doubt there is very good intentions on our side, and we don't see any reason why shouldn't our leaders meet as soon as possible.
And to what degree of importance do you give or not give the upcoming meeting about the Middle East that's scheduled for Great Britain?
Well, unfortunately, we have some negative experience with some of the leaders of European countries who, in the past, were always trying to appease dictators who promised to bring stability. I do hope that now it will not be the position of the free world. There will be no attempt to appease or to strengthen new dictators, but to the contrary, to encourage the reforms. So if this conference will concentrate mainly how the free world can support these reforms, how they can help to the new leadership to improve the conditions in which Palestinians live, to launch the programs of joint ventures which can create much better economical climate. Of course, if they can discuss the question of good and normal education for Palestinians and not continuation of the culture of hatred, I think this conference can be very useful.
Let's go to Cambridge, Illinois next. You're on with Natan Sharansky.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sharansky, or is it evening there?
Good afternoon, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've always had a problem with purely thinking that democracy alone will be the mechanism for stability in the Mideast. I think that's kind of putting the cart in front of the horse. I think people turn to democracies because they tend to be stable, especially Jeffersonian democracies. They're stable because they empower all the individuals of the state. Problem with Israel, and it's partly because of the brutal occupation, the Palestinians without a voice, and the second-class citizenship of the Arab Israelis. It creates that natural tension and the instability. You only have to look at democracies like India and Turkey, close to your nation, and how they treat the minorities. Like in India, the Hindus are treated brutally, and in Turkey, the Kurds are treated brutally as well. And I still haven't had any good explanation why the settlements are so important toward your security.
Well, first of all, I want to tell about your remark that Arab population here is second-class citizen. I still want to see Arab country in which Arab population of that Arab country enjoys the same freedoms in which Arab population of Israel enjoys. Whether we are speaking about freedom of speech, whether we are speaking about the level of education, whether we are speaking about the rates of birth and the rates of death, the level of medical treatment, professions which they can get, newspapers with free debate, political parties and representatives of these political parties voting in Knesset and speaking freely and criticizing government on every issue on which they want. I still want to see Arab country which will have the same level of freedom, and I think it will be very important for the free world when finally this type of freedom will come to the Arab countries. And by the way, I'm one of those, unfortunately not a majority, but one of those in the free world who does believe that Arab people deserve to live, and Muslim people deserve to live in democracy and freedom, and want to live in democracy and freedom no less than people in the West. Now, about democracy, you mentioned in India and in Turkey and other places. Look, the fact that in democratic countries there can be violations of human rights, and practically in every country there are violations of human rights, nevertheless doesn't turn them into dictatorships, which are all built on denial of the rights of individuals. India, from this point of view, definitely is the biggest democracy which exists at this time in the world, with many problems which it has. Nevertheless, there are ways to deal with these problems through democratic methods. And it's very important that the free world will help to Indian government in this direction, and also will encourage them to treat minorities in the better way whenever this is violated. Turkey, I'd like to see Turkey as democratic and as free as the other countries of the free world. No doubt they have some problems, and their relations with Kurd minority definitely is one of the biggest problems. And I say that the treatment of the problems of this minority is very far, yes, from the standards in which we want to say. But one more thing, there is a number of territories which were transferred from Israel's control to Palestinian Authority. Beit Lechem is one of these cities. The moment Beit Lechem changed the hands, as we say, moving to the control of Palestinian Authority, Christians started leaving Beit Lechem in big numbers. I would say maybe for the first time in the history of Beit Lechem, now it stops being a Christian city. It by itself says about real difference in treatment of the minorities in Israel and by some of our neighbors, and what is especially important, of course, in this case, by Palestinian Authority. I do hope that the day will come when Palestinian Authority will have as much respect to human rights of individuals and minorities as we in Israel have. And again, coming back to the question of settlements, you never ask how it can be that in Israel we have so many villages and cities of Arabs, and they are equal citizens of Israel. They can travel all over Israel. Their life is not in any danger, and nobody even thinking for a moment that they have to be removed from Israel. Of course, they should not. To the contrary, we have to fight and protect their rights as full citizens. At the same time, it goes without saying that whenever any territory, any part of territory should be moved to Palestinian Authority, every Jew should leave it. And of course they will have to leave it, because otherwise they will be killed. It by itself says that we have different criteria. When we are speaking about Palestinian Authority, we don't even start thinking in terms of democratic society. And I think it's very unfair towards Palestinians and towards Arab people.
Mr. Sharansky, what is your job and as a cabinet minister? What is your portfolio?
I'm the Minister for Jerusalem and Diaspora Affairs.
And what does that mean?
Well, Diaspora Affairs, of course, connection with the Jews of the world is one of the most important functions for us in Israel. We believe that this country was created in order to become the place for a gathering of exiles of Jews from all over the world. And there are big Jewish communities and there are small Jewish communities, and we in Israel want to have close contact to them and address issues which concern all of us. As to Jerusalem, Jerusalem is not simply another city and even another capital of this world. It's the center of three world religions. It's a unique historical center, but it's also unfortunate that there's a center of terror. 27 big terrorist suicide bombings only in the last years. It's also the center where more than 20 different confessions, Christian and Muslim confessions coexist. And so it means that there are many problems above the problems of municipality, which have to be dealt by the government. And I'm the coordinator of this.
Is it safe to travel in Israel now?
Let me put it this way. It's definitely much safer than 2 years ago. No doubt that in this very difficult struggle with terror, we had many victories, and the essential part of this infrastructure of terror is undermined, it is destroyed. Nevertheless, to say that we are absolutely safe from any terrorist attack in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Netanya, or in any other place, of course not. And that's something that we have to keep in mind all the time and to fight with this practically every moment.
Natan Sharansky, thank you very much for joining us by telephone from Jerusalem today.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And Mr. Sharansky, again, as we said before, is the author of the book, The Case for Democracy, The Power of Freedom to Overcome Tyranny and Terror. You see it here on your screen. This book has been out for just several months, and with reports that the president has read it and has been talking about it. Well, in just a few moments, we'll be back. We're going to change our topic to the Sudan. Congressman Frank Wolf of Virginia will be here.
Late last year, President Bush signed into law the remaining spending bills for this fiscal year, including over $37 billion for housing department programs. $150,000 of that went to build a community and visitor center in Eagle River, Alaska. The Old Independence Regional Museum in Batesville, Arkansas got $250,000 to expand, and $750,000 went for the city of Inglewood, California, to build a senior center. The bill also includes $350,000 for the Maui Filipino Community Center in Wailuku, Hawaii, $200,000 for the city of North Adams in Massachusetts to renovate the Mohawk Theater, and $300,000 for the Story Mansion in Bozeman, Montana, to renovate the historical home originally built in 1910. For more details, you can read the entire bill online